Do you remember the quirky snacks that filled Canadian lunchboxes in the 1970s? The ones that seemed indulgent, colorful, and a little over the top, but secretly had a surprising twist of nutrition. From tangy pickle chips to sweet maple candy bars, these treats were more than just junk food. They were clever, portable, and oddly wholesome. Let's take a crunchy, nostalgic trip through 21 Canadian snacks that were secretly good for you. Wheat Thins with cheese spread. If you grew up in the 1970s Canada, chances are you remember the satisfying crunch of a wheat thin paired with a smear of cheese spread, a humble snack that somehow managed to feel both sophisticated and comfortingly simple. At first glance, it seems like a straightforward convenience food, just a crispy baked cracker and a creamy topping. But dig a little deeper, and you realize it carries the subtle ingenuity of mid-century Canadian kitchens. During this era, processed foods were gaining popularity, yet there was a quiet focus on nutrition hidden in plain sight. Wheat Thins were made from whole wheat flour, offering a source of fiber that many other snack crackers of the time lacked. The cheese spread, while processed, provided calcium and protein, making this pairing a little more substantial than a mere indulgence. The origins of Wheat Thins themselves are tied to a post-war shift in North American food culture, where families began to embrace convenience without wanting to compromise entirely on taste or health. Whole grains were still touted as wholesome, and a snack that combined crunch with a creamy topping could satisfy children and adults alike. The 1970s version of this snack leaned on simplicity. No artificial colors or flashy additives that dominate today's snack aisle. And that simplicity had a charm of its own. It was the kind of snack you could pack in a lunchbox for school, set out at a potluck, or keep on hand for an after-school nibble. Preparation was as minimal as it gets, which is part of its enduring appeal. The crackers arrived pre-baked. The cheese spread often came in a tub, ready to be scooped or spread straight onto the snack. Families often got creative, pairing the spread with other toppings, or even cutting the wheat thins into smaller shapes to stretch a modest snack further. There was an implicit lesson in resourcefulness. A little goes a long way, and a simple combination can feel indulgent when shared with others. Nostalgia plays a big role in the affection many Canadians hold for this snack. For some, it evokes memories of rainy afternoon cartoons, lunchbox trades, or sharing a quick snack with a sibling after school. There's also a communal memory embedded in the ritual of spreading, crunching, and savoring. A small, everyday act of togetherness. It reminds us that even seemingly ordinary foods carried subtle joys and moments of connection in their simplicity. In today's snack landscape, the wheat thin with cheese spread might seem quaint, almost quaintly wholesome compared to the Instagram-ready, hyper-stylized options of the moment. Yet its combination of fiber, protein, and portable convenience feels surprisingly modern when viewed through the lens of today's busy lifestyles. It's a snack that quietly bridged enjoyment and nutrition, proving that sometimes the junk food of yesterday had more to offer than first met the eye. Eating one now, you can almost hear the gentle crunch, feel the smooth spread, and recall that warm, unpretentious slice of 1970s Canadian life. A small, crunchy testament to frugality, ingenuity, and comfort. Crispy rice cereal bars. In the 1970s, the humble crispy rice cereal bar was a marvel of convenience and creativity, quietly transforming kitchens across Canada into hubs of simple ingenuity. On the surface, these treats were nothing more than a handful of puffed rice, melted butter, and sticky marshmallows, pressed into a pan and cut into neat squares. Yet for families navigating the busy rhythms of suburban life, they were a revelation, portable, sweet, and surprisingly satisfying. Unlike many modern snack bars loaded with preservatives and artificial additives, the 1970s version was largely made from pantry staples, inexpensive, and quick to assemble. In an era when convenience foods were becoming increasingly popular, these bars managed to feel homemade, wholesome, and indulgent all at once. The origins of this snack lie in the post-war push for easy, family-friendly foods. Mothers and fathers sought treats that could double as a quick breakfast, a lunchbox edition, or an after-school snack, all without demanding complicated preparation. The bars were fortified indirectly too. Puffed rice, often enriched, supplied iron and some B vitamins, while the butter added fat for satiety, and the marshmallows brought joy and sweetness without breaking the bank. It was a clever balance, snacks that felt like a treat but carried a whisper of nutrition. Preparation was straightforward, which contributed to their popularity. The marshmallows were melted gently with butter, stirred until smooth, and then mixed with the cereal until every grain was coated. Pressed into a greased pan, the mixture set into bars that could be cut and stored for the week. Kids often claimed the task of shaping or cutting the bars, turning a simple recipe into a small kitchen ritual that encouraged participation and creativity. Some families experimented by adding raisins, chocolate chips, or a dusting of cinnamon, turning a basic recipe into a canvas for experimentation and resourcefulness. Nostalgia saturates the memory of these bars. For many Canadians, they evoke images of school lunches, neighborhood playdates, and the proud sense of accomplishment that came from helping in the kitchen. They were treats that didn't just fill the stomach, but built small, everyday memories. Eating one now brings back the smell of melting marshmallows, the sticky fingers of childhood, and the quiet pride of homemade simplicity. Viewed through a modern lens, crispy rice cereal bars feel almost revolutionary in their modesty. Compared to today's protein bars, energy bites, and TikTok snack hacks, they are straightforward, honest, and comforting. Yet in their simplicity lies brilliance. They combined portability, sweetness, and subtle nutrition in a way that still resonates. Each bite is a reminder that innovation doesn't always come in flashy packaging or complicated formulas. Sometimes it's in the sticky, crunchy squares pressed into a pan in a 1970s Canadian kitchen, carrying warmth, nostalgia, and a quietly clever kind of resourcefulness. Nanaimo bars. Few Canadian desserts evoke as much nostalgia and regional pride as the Nanaimo bar, a decadent treat that first gained widespread recognition in the 1970s, but whose roots trace back even earlier on Vancouver Island. To the uninitiated, a Nanaimo bar might look like an over-the-top confection, 3 distinct layers stacked with precise, almost architectural intent. But for those who grew up enjoying them, they were and remain a symbol of indulgence, celebration, and culinary ingenuity. Despite their richness, these bars carried subtle nutritional bonuses hidden within their layers, making them a treat that was secretly good for you in the context of the era's diet. The origin of the Nanaimo bar is deeply Canadian, reflecting both regional pride and the post-war boom in convenience baking. The base layer, a dense mixture of crushed graham crackers, coconut, and cocoa, provided fiber, iron, and a hint of protein from the custard powder. The middle layer, a creamy custard-flavored butter icing, added richness but also calcium from the dairy content. Finally, the glossy chocolate top delivered sweetness and satisfaction. The finishing touch that transformed a simple snack into a showpiece dessert. Unlike many modern desserts that rely heavily on chemical stabilizers or artificial flavors, traditional Nanaimo bars were handmade, often from ingredients that could be found in any pantry, making them accessible to families of all means. Preparation was a ritual in itself, one that required patience, precision, and a bit of flair. Each layer had to be carefully constructed, the base pressed firmly, the custard layer spread evenly, and the chocolate topping poured and smoothed with gentle care. Cutting the bars cleanly without smudging the chocolate was an art, often reserved for the more practiced hands in the household. Yet the process was part of the pleasure, a tactile and visual reminder that desserts could be both beautiful and attainable. Families would gather around the kitchen counter, sharing tips, licking spatulas, and making small, treasured mistakes that became stories retold at future gatherings. The emotional resonance of Nanaimo bars is undeniable. They were more than just sweets. They were tokens of celebration, shared at birthdays, school events, and community potlucks. The richness of the treat mirrored the warmth of Canadian hospitality, a bite-sized embodiment of togetherness and indulgence. Eating one today conjures images of retro kitchens, the hum of conversation, and the comforting aroma of chocolate and coconut blending in the air. In a modern context, Nanaimo bars continue to captivate. Compared to the flashy, ultra-processed desserts trending on social media, they feel grounded, approachable, and timeless. Their layered composition teaches patience and appreciation, while the subtle nutritional value, fiber from the base, calcium from the custard, even a touch of protein, reminds us that even indulgence can have a silver lining. Every bite is a connection to a Canadian past, a celebration of resourcefulness, and a deliciously sticky testament to the joy of homemade tradition. Beef-flavored potato chips. If you were wandering the snack aisles of 1970s Canada, beef-flavored potato chips might have caught your eye, or more likely, your nose. Their savory aroma hinted at a meaty richness, a bold twist on the humble potato chip that felt daring at the time. On the surface, they were a quintessential junk food, a salty, crunchy indulgence. But look closer, and you discover a surprising depth. These chips were part of a period when snack makers experimented with flavor innovation, while still sneaking in small nutritional bonuses. The seasoning often contained hydrolyzed vegetable protein, or powdered beef extracts, giving a dose of protein and umami that made them feel more substantial than a plain salted chip. The origins of beef-flavored chips lie in post-war experimentation. Snack companies were exploring ways to make ordinary potatoes exciting, capitalizing on the growing demand for convenience and variety. Families in the 1970s were drawn to bold, novel tastes, and beef-flavored chips answered that craving without requiring a trip to the kitchen. The chips were inexpensive, shelf-stable, and perfectly portioned for a school lunch or a television snack. While processed, they reflected the era's playful approach to flavor, marrying indulgence with a faint suggestion of nourishment. Preparation, of course, was entirely industrial, yet the homemade snacking ritual transformed them into something personal. Kids would shake open the bag, inhale the savory aroma, and savor the crisp crunch that broke under gentle pressure. Families sometimes paired them with sandwiches, cheese, or a glass of milk, turning a simple snack into a balanced mini-meal. There was a subtle lesson in resourcefulness here too. A little protein, some fat, a carb or two, and instant satisfaction. All without complicated cooking or cleanup. Nostalgia is thick with these chips. Many Canadians recall the delight of sharing a bag at a backyard party or sneaking a handful from a lunchbox, the flavor making even a routine day feel a little more adventurous. There's humor too in how seriously kids and adults took the flavor. It was bold, unapologetic, and almost experimental, a tiny taste of culinary daring in an otherwise straightforward era. Viewed today, beef-flavored potato chips are almost a novelty, a quirky artifact of snack history. In comparison to the hyper-engineered, Instagram-ready chips of now, they seem straightforward, honest, and even comforting. Yet they carried lessons in creativity, portion control, and a subtle nod to protein intake, reminding us that even junk food could be clever in its own right. Opening a bag now, you can still hear the familiar crunch, taste the umami pop, and travel back to a time when innovation in a chip bag felt like a tiny culinary adventure. It's a crunchy, savory reminder that sometimes indulgence and ingenuity can live together in a single, delicious bite. Cheesies. For anyone who grew up in Canada during the 1970s, Cheesies were nothing short of legendary. Those bright orange, crunchy sticks of pure cheddar-flavored delight had a way of dominating lunchboxes, snack cabinets, and movie nights alike. At first glance, they might seem like a straightforward guilty pleasure, highly processed, intensely cheesy, and unapologetically orange. But there's a charm in their simplicity that went beyond indulgence. The cheese coating actually provided a modest boost of calcium and protein, and the cornmeal-based snack offered a satisfying crunch that made every bite feel substantial. In other words, Cheesies were more than just junk food. They were a small, secretly clever source of nutrition wrapped in pure fun. Cheesies have their roots in post-war snack innovation, reflecting a moment when Canadian companies were exploring new ways to transform everyday grains into irresistible treats. Made primarily from ground cornmeal, they were baked and then coated with a tangy cheddar seasoning, creating a textural contrast that was as addictive as it was unique. Unlike some modern snack foods, Cheesies relied on a straightforward process, minimal artificial colors, and real cheese in the seasoning, which gave them their distinct flavor. Families could buy them in boxes, bags, or even bulk tins, making them perfect for sharing at parties, picnics, or after-school gatherings. Part of the magic of Cheesies was the ritual of eating them. There was the unmistakable crunch, the faint dusting of cheddar powder on your fingers, and the unmistakable urge to lick the cheese off before continuing. Parents and grandparents often joked about the orange fingerprints left behind, but there was a sense of community in those little messes, a shared experience of flavor, laughter, and childhood mischief. Cheesies weren't just snacks, they were social glue, sparking conversation and connection in a way that transcended the simple act of eating. Nostalgia runs deep with Cheesies. Many Canadians recall sneaking them into lunchboxes, pairing them with sandwiches, or enjoying them at the movies with friends. The bright orange hue became almost a symbol of Canadian snacking, a cultural marker that set them apart from more generic chips or crackers. Even today, Cheesies carry that same playful spirit, a reminder that food can evoke memories, family bonds, and the small joys of everyday life. Looking at Cheesies through a modern lens, they feel refreshingly honest compared to today's hyper-engineered, Instagram-ready snacks. Their combination of crunch, cheese, and simplicity is timeless. They taught us that indulgence doesn't have to be complicated, and that a little creativity with basic ingredients could create something enduring. Opening a box now, you're met with the same tangy aroma and satisfying snap, a direct link to a 1970s Canadian kitchen where resourcefulness, flavor, and community came together in one unforgettable orange-hued bite. Chocolate milk in cartons. In 1970s Canada, chocolate milk in cartons was more than a sweet beverage. It was a small daily miracle for kids, parents, and anyone craving a moment of indulgence. The convenience of a prepackaged drink, ready to grab from the fridge or toss in a lunchbox, felt revolutionary at a time when school lunches were transitioning from homemade sandwiches to quick, portable meals. Unlike the powdered mixes or syrup-added drinks of earlier decades, the carton provided a consistent, creamy, chocolatey treat that was both satisfying and subtly nutritious. It was fortified with calcium and vitamin D, offering a comforting dose of dairy that parents could feel good about, while kids reveled in the chocolatey sweetness. The origins of chocolate milk in cartons tie closely to the post-war push for convenience and nutrition. Dairy producers wanted to make milk more appealing to children, and adding chocolate flavor while packaging it in sturdy, single-serving cartons was a perfect solution. It represented a merging of indulgence and practicality, a product that could travel from the kitchen to the classroom without a spill. Families appreciated that the cartons kept milk fresh longer than glass bottles, and schools embraced the uniform portions for lunch programs. There was a kind of quiet ingenuity in this small innovation, nutrition wrapped in portability, packaged with care. Preparation was, of course, non-existent. Simply open the carton and drink. But there was still a ritual to it. Kids would shake the carton to mix any settled chocolate powder, peel back the foil top with a satisfying pop, and savor the creamy, sweet liquid inside. The carton itself became a playful part of the experience, sometimes folded into paper airplanes or kept as tiny collectible items. In this simplicity, chocolate milk in cartons offered more than a beverage. It offered small, everyday moments of joy. Nostalgia around chocolate milk is rich. For many Canadians, it conjures memories of school cafeterias, after-school snacks, and family breakfasts on rushed weekday mornings. It reminds us of a time when simple pleasures were central to daily life, when a chocolatey sip could brighten a cloudy day or reward a child for finishing homework. The creamy sweetness carried more than flavor. It carried connection, comfort, and the quiet pride of convenience done right. Looking back, chocolate milk in cartons feels surprisingly modern. Its combination of portability, fortification, and flavor is something today's parents still seek, even amid a landscape of plant-based alternatives and trendy beverage options. Drinking one now brings both a literal and emotional taste of the 1970s, a perfect balance of indulgence, practicality, and subtle nutrition. In that little carton, Canadians found a beverage that was fun, wholesome, and timeless. A small icon of snack history that remains cherished to this day. Baked beans on toast snack packs. In the 1970s, baked beans on toast wasn't just a humble comfort food. It was a cultural institution, and when it came in convenient snack packs, it became a surprising symbol of Canadian ingenuity. Imagine a compact, portable version of this classic dish. Soft, slightly sweet beans coated in tomato sauce, paired with a crisp toast base, ready to eat straight from the package. For families navigating busy schedules or parents packing lunchboxes, it offered a way to deliver both warmth and nourishment without heating a pan or pulling out a loaf of bread. These snack packs may have looked like a quick indulgence, but they were actually a clever combination of protein, fiber, and carbohydrates, quietly supporting a child's energy needs and keeping mid-afternoon hunger at bay. The origin of baked beans on toast as a snack reflects a period when convenience foods were rapidly evolving. Canadian households were increasingly pressed for time, and manufacturers sought ways to bring traditional meals into compact, portable formats. Baked beans themselves were a pantry staple, inexpensive and long-lasting, often simmered slowly on a stovetop for family dinners. The snack pack was essentially a microcosm of that tradition. Beans provided plant-based protein and iron, the toast contributed carbohydrates for quick energy, and the tomato sauce added a small dose of vitamin C and flavor. It was a mini meal that married practicality with nostalgia, preserving the essence of a home-cooked favorite in a tidy, travel-ready form. Preparation was non-existent beyond peeling back the lid, but the ritual of enjoying these snack packs was still uniquely satisfying. Children could balance the toast and beans in each bite, relishing the slight sweetness of the sauce and the soft, comforting texture. Families sometimes added a sprinkle of grated cheese, a dash of Worcestershire sauce, or a pinch of paprika to elevate the flavor, turning a pre-packaged convenience into a playful, creative experience. It was a snack that encouraged small culinary experiments, even within the constraints of ready-made packaging. Nostalgia surrounds baked beans on toast snack packs, evoking memories of school cafeterias, rainy day picnics, and after-school breaks shared with friends. There's humor too. The slightly sticky fingers, the inevitable debate over which corner of the toast to bite first, and the quiet satisfaction of a savory treat that somehow felt like home. It was comfort in a package, a reminder that good food didn't need to be complicated to bring joy. Viewed from a modern perspective, these snack packs are surprisingly relevant. In an era obsessed with meal kits, energy bars, and single-serve convenience foods, they demonstrate that practicality, flavor, and subtle nutrition can coexist. Eating one today transports you back to a 1970s Canadian kitchen where families embraced resourcefulness, simplicity, and small, everyday pleasures. A tidy little snack that carried both heritage and warmth in every bite. Sugar Snap Pea Chips. In the 1970s, Sugar Snap Pea Chips were a curious hybrid of snack innovation and nutritional cleverness, quietly making their way into Canadian lunchboxes and kitchen cupboards. At first glance, they looked like an ordinary crunchy snack, bright and airy, often dusted with just enough salt to make each bite addictive. Yet unlike many of their more indulgent contemporaries, these chips carried a subtle health bonus. They were made from peas, a legume rich in fiber, protein, and essential vitamins. It was a time when snack makers were beginning to experiment with alternative ingredients, and Sugar Snap Pea Chips were an early example of convenience foods attempting to balance indulgence with a nod toward nourishment. The origin of this snack lies in the post-war trend of fortifying processed foods with naturally beneficial ingredients. Canadians were becoming increasingly aware of nutrition, and legumes offered a way to sneak protein and fiber into a snack that still felt fun. Sugar Snap peas, lightly processed and fried or baked into a chip, provided a satisfying crunch and a hint of vegetal flavor. bridging the gap between a traditional vegetable serving and a salty, portable snack. The simplicity of the ingredient list, peas, a touch of oil, and seasoning, reflected the era's approach to convenience. Uncomplicated, shelf-stable, and easy to share. Preparation was minimal, limited to opening a bag or tin, but that didn't diminish the enjoyment. Kids and adults alike would reach in for handfuls, the crisp sound of breaking chips punctuating conversations or afternoon television shows. Some families got creative, sprinkling them over soups, salads, or casseroles, integrating the snack into meals rather than simply treating it as an isolated indulgence. It was a reminder that even processed snacks could be versatile, practical, and surprisingly satisfying in multiple contexts. Nostalgia for Sugar Snap pea chips is tied not only to their taste, but to their cultural placement. They evoke images of school lunches, backyard games, and casual snacking on rainy afternoons. There's a warmth in remembering the tiny crunches, the faint vegetal flavor, and the fun of discovering a snack that somehow felt grown up and playful at the same time. Parents appreciated that their children were eating something with fiber and protein, while kids were blissfully unaware that a little nutrition was sneaking in alongside the fun. Viewed through a modern lens, Sugar Snap pea chips feel almost ahead of their time. Today's market brims with vegetable-based snacks, baked chips, and high-protein alternatives. Yet the 1970s version feels remarkably aligned with current trends. Each bite delivers a blend of texture, flavor, and nostalgia, connecting us to a simpler era when snacks could be both innovative and wholesome. It's a crunchy, lightly salted testament to the creativity and subtle ingenuity of Canadian snacking culture. A reminder that sometimes the best surprises come in small, crisp, pea-filled packages. Fruit-filled pastries. In the 1970s, Canada, fruit-filled pastries were a beloved staple of lunchboxes, after-school snacks, and weekend treats. Their flaky golden crusts encased pockets of sweet, often slightly tart, fruit preserves, creating a combination that felt both indulgent and comforting. At first glance, they might seem like a simple convenience food, a pre-packaged treat to satisfy a sugar craving. But behind the delicate exterior, these pastries carried subtle nutritional benefits. The fruit filling provided vitamins like C and A, along with fiber, while the pastry itself, made from enriched flour, offered a modest source of energy. In an era when processed snacks were gaining popularity, fruit-filled pastries struck a balance between taste, portability, and a whisper of wholesome value. The origin of these pastries is rooted in both tradition and convenience. Bakeries across Canada had long crafted fruit-filled treats, but the 1970s saw an evolution toward individually wrapped versions that could travel from kitchen counters to lunch boxes without losing freshness. Families appreciated the portability and ease, a snack that required no refrigeration, no utensils, and little fuss. The simplicity of the ingredients, flour, butter, sugar, and fruit preserves, made them accessible, while the process of baking at home or purchasing from a local bakery added a sense of personal connection to an otherwise mass-produced treat. Eating a fruit-filled pastry was more than just satisfying hunger. It was an experience. There was the anticipation of biting through the delicate crust to reach the sweet, sometimes sticky filling. Fingers inevitably got dusted with sugar, but that was part of the pleasure. Children would compare flavors, argue over who got the cherry-filled pastry versus apricot, and savor the ritual of unwrapping each individually packaged delight. Parents, meanwhile, could feel a small sense of pride. The snack was indulgent, yes, but at least it had fruit in it. Nostalgia for these pastries runs deep. They evoke memories of school cafeterias, kitchen counters on rainy Saturday mornings, and impromptu picnics in local parks. There's humor too. The inevitable squished pastries at the bottom of a backpack, or the struggle to eat one neatly before running out the door. Yet through these small imperfections, the pastries remain a symbol of home, comfort, and everyday joy. Viewed through a modern lens, fruit-filled pastries are surprisingly timeless. In an age of Instagrammable desserts and elaborate snack bars, their simplicity feels refreshing. They remind us that convenience need not sacrifice flavor, and that a small sweet treat can carry with it connection, memory, and even a hint of nutrition. Taking a bite today, you can almost taste the golden crust, the slightly tart fruit, and the 1970s Canadian childhood that cherished both indulgence and practicality in equal measure. Popcorn balls with molasses. In the 1970s, Canada, popcorn balls sweetened with molasses were a rustic, sticky delight that turned a simple pantry staple into a festive treat. At first glance, they might seem like nothing more than a sugary snack, but they were surprisingly clever in both flavor and sustenance. Popcorn, light and airy, provided a whole grain base packed with fiber, while the molasses added not only sweetness, but also trace minerals like iron and calcium. For families navigating tight budgets or seeking quick, crowd-pleasing snacks, popcorn balls were a testament to frugality, ingenuity, and that to make a little go a long way. The origins of this snack stretch back to old-fashioned fairs and holiday traditions, where popcorn balls were handmade in kitchens or on street corners. By the 1970s, commercial versions appeared, making them accessible year-round while retaining that nostalgic charm. The molasses-coated popcorn captured the sweet and savory balance Canadians loved, offering a rich, slightly earthy flavor that distinguished it from ordinary caramel or sugar-coated popcorn. These treats were particularly popular around holidays, but they also found a place in lunchboxes and after-school snacks, a portable indulgence that didn't require refrigeration or elaborate preparation. Preparation of popcorn balls was deceptively simple, yet required a bit of care. Popped corn was gently folded with melted butter and molasses, sometimes with a pinch of salt or a sprinkling of cinnamon for added warmth. The mixture was then pressed into balls while still warm, allowing the sticky coating to bind the kernels together. Children often got involved, shaping the warm, sticky spheres with buttered hands, learning patience, and enjoying the inevitable mess as part of the process. It was a small kitchen ritual, a tactile joy that combined creativity with delicious results. Nostalgia for popcorn balls with molasses runs deep. Many Canadians remember them from school events, community fairs, and cozy evenings at home. The slight chewiness, the rich aroma of molasses, and the satisfying crunch of the popcorn created a multi-sensory experience that lingered long after the snack was gone. There's humor in recalling the sticky fingers, the molasses-smeared countertops, and the delighted faces of kids who couldn't resist sneaking bites before the balls were even fully set. Viewed today, these treats feel both charming and surprisingly modern. In a world of hyper-processed snacks, popcorn balls with molasses embody simplicity, texture, and a hint of nutrition, a combination many contemporary snack makers strive for. Each bite carries the warmth of Canadian kitchens, the resourcefulness of frugal families, and the joy of making something special out of simple ingredients. Eating one now is like holding a piece of history, crunchy, sweet, and unexpectedly wholesome, a testament to creativity, resilience, and timeless flavor. Poutine chips. In the 1970s, Canada, poutine was still finding its footing as a national culinary icon, but inventive snack makers had already captured its essence in a more portable, crunchy form. Poutine-flavored potato chips. These chips were more than a salty snack. They were a playful tribute to a dish that combined fries, gravy, and cheese curds into one unforgettable comfort meal. On paper, they might have seemed like a novelty, but for Canadian families, they offered a little taste of indulgence that was easy to carry, share, and enjoy anywhere. While not a full meal, the chips' seasoning often included cheese powder and savory flavorings that provided a hint of protein and calcium, making them a snack that satisfied both taste buds and, in a small way, nutritional curiosity. The origin of poutine chips reflects the era's enthusiasm for convenience foods and playful reinterpretations of traditional dishes. Snack companies were experimenting with bold, regionally inspired flavors, aiming to replicate beloved meals in miniature form. Potato chips were an ideal canvas, universally loved, portable, and familiar, yet adaptable to creative seasoning. By capturing the essence of poutine, cheese, gravy, and a hint of spice, manufacturers created a product that resonated with Canadians who longed for comfort food without the wait. Families could buy a bag for road trips, lunch boxes, or mid-afternoon cravings, enjoying the flavor without turning on the stove. Preparation was entirely pre-packaged, but the ritual of eating them added to their appeal. The first crackle of a chip breaking, followed by the savory burst of cheese and gravy seasoning, was an instant mood booster. Kids and adults alike would compare which chip had the most seasoning or try to replicate poutine at home with leftover fries and cheese. Even the smell, the combination of potato, cheese, and savory spices, evoked a sense of warmth, nostalgia, and shared enjoyment. Nostalgia for poutine chips runs deep in Canadian memory. They bring back school lunch trays, after-school snacks, and family road trips, where a simple bag of chips could satisfy cravings for both crunch and comfort. There's a playful humor in remembering how seriously people took the poutine flavor, a kind of cheeky pride in seeing a beloved national dish reimagined in snack form. Viewed today, poutine chips feel both classic and innovative. Compared to modern snack trends with extreme flavors or Instagram-ready packaging, these chips were straightforward, approachable, and inventive in a subtle way. Each bite carries the essence of Canadian culinary creativity, a small nod to indulgence, community, and regional pride. Eating one now, you can taste the crisp crunch, the savory seasoning, and a little slice of 1970s snack ingenuity. A playful, flavorful reminder that even chips could tell a story about culture, comfort, and culinary creativity. Molson Beer Snack Mix. In the 1970s, Canada, the Molson Beer Snack Mix was an adult-oriented innovation that turned the casual act of snacking into a slightly sophisticated ritual. While most snacks of the era were aimed at children, this mix recognized that adults also wanted flavorful, convenient options that paired well with a cold drink. Typically composed of roasted nuts, pretzels, and savory bite-sized crackers, all lightly seasoned to complement the flavors of beer, it offered more than just crunch. The nuts supplied protein and healthy fats. The pretzels delivered carbohydrates for quick energy. and the seasoning elevated the experience without overwhelming the palate. It was a snack that managed to be indulgent, practical, and subtly nourishing all at once. The origin of Molson Beer snack mix ties closely to the post-war beer culture in Canada, when social drinking became increasingly casual and home entertaining was on the rise. Brewers and snack manufacturers saw an opportunity to create complementary products that enhanced the drinking experience. This snack mix was designed to be portable, shelf-stable, and ready to serve straight from the container, whether at a backyard barbecue, a hockey game, or a family reunion game viewing, or a casual dinner party. Its combination of flavors was carefully calibrated to balance saltiness, crunch, and the natural richness of roasted nuts, making it a companion rather than a distraction to the beer. Preparation was minimal, as the mix came pre-packaged and ready to serve. Yet the ritual of enjoying it was part of its charm. Pouring it into a bowl, setting it on the coffee table, and reaching for a handful while sharing conversation with friends made the snack more than just food. It became part of a social experience. Some families or hosts added their own twists, tossing in extra peanuts, cheese crackers, or even a sprinkle of paprika, demonstrating a small but meaningful creativity that elevated a packaged product into a personal tradition. Nostalgia for Molson Beer. Snack mix is rooted in both flavor and memory. It conjures images of weekend gatherings, hockey nights, and casual entertaining, where conversation and camaraderie flowed as freely as the beverages. There's a humor in recalling how seriously adults could take the perfect balance of crunch, salt, and seasoning, debating which piece was the best while reaching for one more handful. Yet behind the indulgence lay subtle practicality. A snack that kept guests satisfied, paired well with drinks, and required virtually no preparation. Viewed through a modern lens, Molson Beer snack mix remains surprisingly relevant. With today's emphasis on shareable snacks, beer pairings, and craft food culture, it feels ahead of its time. Each bite offers the satisfaction of texture, flavor, and a touch of nostalgia. A reminder that snacking can be social, thoughtful, and even slightly nutritious. Opening a container now transports you to a 1970s Canadian living room or backyard, where flavor, fun, and community converged in one simple, crunchy mix. Maple candy bars. In the 1970s, Canada, maple candy bars were a sweet, unassuming indulgence that captured the essence of the country's most iconic flavor. These bars combined the rich, amber sweetness of maple syrup with a chewy or slightly crunchy base, creating a treat that was both satisfying and nostalgic. While they were undoubtedly a candy, they carried a subtle nutritional edge. Real maple syrup provided trace minerals like manganese and zinc, along with a touch of antioxidants, giving these bars a secretly good-for-you quality compared to many other sweets of the era. They were a small luxury, a portable indulgence that brought the essence of Canadian tradition into everyday snacking. The origins of maple candy bars are deeply rooted in Canadian culinary culture, reflecting both the abundance of maple syrup and a post-war desire for convenient, individually packaged treats. Small-scale maple producers had long created candies and confections, but the 1970s saw mass production make these treats more accessible for school lunches, after-school snacks, and road trips. Unlike heavily processed candies, these bars emphasized a simple ingredient list: maple syrup, sugar, and sometimes butter or nuts. letting the flavor shine without masking it with artificial additives. Families could enjoy them as a sweet reward, a snack, or even a nostalgic reminder of cozy kitchens during the winter maple harvest. Preparation for those making them at home was deceptively simple, but required patience. Maple syrup was boiled to the right consistency, sometimes mixed with butter or nuts, then poured into molds or cut into bars. The process demanded careful attention, as overheating could burn the syrup, while undercooking would leave the bars too soft. Yet the tactile, hands-on nature of the process added to the charm. Children often watched eagerly or helped stir under supervision, learning patience and the simple joy of turning a single ingredient into a shareable treat. Nostalgia for maple candy bars runs deep. They evoke memories of childhood road trips, winter festivals, and small rewards for good behavior or completed chores. There's a warmth in recalling the rich, sticky sweetness, the earthy aroma of maple, and the satisfying chew that felt indulgent without being overwhelming. Unlike many sugary snacks of the era, maple candy bars offered a sense of authenticity, a connection to the land and its seasonal rhythms. Viewed through a modern lens, maple candy bars feel timeless. Today's artisanal candy culture continues to celebrate real ingredients and traditional flavors, making these bars a precursor to the craft sweet movement. Eating one now evokes the same sense of comfort and delight as it did in the 1970s. A chewy, sweet reminder of Canadian ingenuity, seasonal abundance, and the joy of savoring something simple, flavorful, and wholly satisfying. Each bite is a small celebration of heritage, community, and the understated brilliance of maple. Vegetable juice popsicles. In 1970s Canada, vegetable juice popsicles were an unexpected yet surprisingly clever snack that reflected both the era's fascination with convenience and a growing interest in nutrition. At first glance, the idea of freezing vegetables into a popsicle might have seemed unusual, even daring, for children accustomed to fruit-flavored treats. Yet these icy snacks offered a subtle health advantage. Vitamins A and C from carrots, tomatoes, or leafy greens, along with a refreshing, low-calorie alternative to traditional sugary popsicles. For parents, they were a practical way to sneak vegetables into children's diets, while still providing a fun, portable snack. The origin of vegetable juice popsicles is tied to mid-century trends in health consciousness and home experimentation. Canadians were becoming increasingly aware of the importance of vitamins, fiber, and balanced diets, and frozen treats provided a convenient vehicle for delivering these nutrients. Manufacturers and home cooks alike began to experiment, turning tomato juice, carrot juice, and other vegetable blends into frozen forms that could be enjoyed during hot summers or as part of a lunchbox. The concept married frugality with creativity. Leftover juice or surplus garden vegetables could be transformed into a snack that required little additional preparation. Preparation was straightforward but still part of the charm. Juice was poured into molds or small paper cups, often with wooden sticks inserted before freezing. Children could participate by selecting flavors or mixing different juices for a custom creation, adding a tactile and playful dimension to what might otherwise have been a purely utilitarian snack. Watching the liquid slowly solidify into a frozen treat carried its own kind of anticipation and satisfaction, turning a simple act of nutrition into a small family ritual. Nostalgia for vegetable juice popsicles is tied not only to flavor, but to experience. Many Canadians remember the slightly earthy sweetness, the icy texture, and the pride in enjoying something both fun and nourishing. There's humor in recalling the initial skepticism, kids eyeing their carrot pops suspiciously before discovering the surprisingly pleasant taste, and warmth in remembering the communal enjoyment of these homemade treats during backyard summers or after school. Viewed through a modern lens, vegetable juice popsicles feel ahead of their time. Today's market is filled with green smoothies, vegetable-based snacks, and health-conscious frozen treats. Yet the 1970s versions were pioneering in their simplicity and practicality. Each bite delivers a mix of nostalgia, refreshment, and subtle nutrition, connecting the eater to a period when creativity, frugality, and a focus on wholesome ingredients shaped everyday snacking. These popsicles are a frozen testament to resourcefulness, playfulness, and the enduring idea that good food can be both fun and nourishing. Peanut butter and jam sandwich crackers. In the 1970s Canada, peanut butter and jam sandwich crackers were a lunchtime revelation. Imagine the classic comfort of a peanut butter and jam sandwich, shrunk down into two crisp, bite-sized crackers with a sweet and savory filling sandwiched between them. On paper, they might seem like just another convenience snack, but they were surprisingly clever in balancing taste, portability, and subtle nutrition. The peanut butter offered protein and healthy fats, while the jam contributed a touch of fruit-derived sweetness and a modest dose of vitamins. Encased in a crunchy cracker shell, these snacks became a practical, mess-free solution for school lunches, picnics, and after-school hunger pangs. The origins of these sandwich crackers reflect the era's obsession with convenience and portability. Traditional peanut butter and jam sandwiches were already a lunchbox staple, but children and busy parents alike appreciated a snack that didn't require slicing bread, spreading sticky ingredients, or worrying about the filling squishing out. Snack manufacturers recognized the opportunity, creating pre-packaged, individually wrapped sandwiches that retained the familiar flavors of home while offering the added benefit of shelf stability. Families could rely on them for quick energy boosts, school trips, or even as an emergency treat stashed in a desk drawer. Preparation was, of course, minimal. Simply open the wrapper and enjoy. But there was still a sensory pleasure in biting through the crisp cracker to reveal the creamy peanut butter and sweet jam center. Children often savored the contrast of textures and flavors, comparing the taste to homemade sandwiches and delighting in the small, perfectly portioned bites. Some families even experimented, pairing the crackers with slices of apple, cheese, or a glass of milk, elevating a simple snack into a mini meal. Nostalgia for peanut butter and jam sandwich crackers is rooted in both flavor and memory. Canadians recall lunchboxes filled with neatly stacked crackers, snack breaks during school, and the joy of unwrapping a little treat after a long day. There's humor in remembering the inevitable crushed or sticky versions at the bottom of a backpack, but also warmth in the familiarity and comfort these snacks provided. They embodied a moment of care, practicality, and indulgence all in one small package. Viewed through a modern lens, these sandwich crackers feel surprisingly timeless. Today's busy lifestyles and demand for portable, convenient snacks echo the same principles that made them popular in the 1970s. Each bite delivers a nostalgic crunch, a creamy sweet center, and a reminder that even small pre-packaged treats can carry a surprising balance of nutrition, practicality, and joy. They are a crunchy, portable testament to Canadian snack ingenuity. A reminder that convenience and flavor need not be mutually exclusive. Carrot chips. In the 1970s, Canada, carrot chips were a curious blend of health-conscious innovation and snack-time indulgence. Unlike the typical sugary treats or heavily salted crisps, these thinly sliced baked or fried carrot snacks offered a subtle nod to nutrition while still satisfying the craving for crunch. Carrots, naturally rich in beta-carotene, fiber, and vitamins, provided a genuinely wholesome base, while a light coating of oil and a sprinkle of salt enhanced their flavor and texture. For parents striving to introduce vegetables in fun, portable ways, carrot chips were a quiet triumph. Snacks that were visually appealing, easy to handle, and surprisingly tasty. The origins of carrot chips are tied to the post-war era's increasing focus on nutrition and convenience. Canadians were experimenting with ways to make vegetables more accessible and enjoyable outside of the dinner plate. The 1970s saw a rise in packaged and ready-to-eat foods that promised health benefits without demanding effort in the kitchen. Carrot chips fit perfectly into this landscape. They could be purchased in pre-packaged bags or made at home with minimal preparation, transforming humble root vegetables into a snack that felt modern, playful, and practical. Preparation was deceptively simple. Carrots were peeled, sliced thin, and lightly coated with oil or butter, then baked or fried until crisp. Some families experimented with seasonings, paprika, cinnamon, or a touch of sugar, to create variations that appealed to different tastes. Kids often helped in the kitchen, arranging slices on baking trays or sprinkling seasonings, turning the snack-making process into a small creative project. The act of watching the carrots transform from raw, stiff sticks into golden, crunchy chips added a layer of satisfaction that went beyond flavor. Nostalgia for carrot chips is tied as much to the experience as to the taste. Many Canadians remember snack trays at school or casual gatherings where these simple, crunchy treats were served alongside other finger foods. There's a warmth in recalling the slightly sweet aroma of baked carrots, the satisfying snap when bitten, and the pride of enjoying something that felt both fun and a little virtuous. It was a snack that merged indulgence with mindfulness, offering an early example of what we now call better-for-you convenience foods. Viewed today, carrot chips feel surprisingly contemporary. They anticipate the modern trend of vegetable-based snacks, baked crisps, and clean label foods that balance flavor, texture, and nutrition. Each bite offers nostalgia, subtle sweetness, and a satisfying crunch. A reminder that creativity, practicality, and health-conscious thinking have long shaped Canadian snacking culture. Carrot chips were more than a crunchy vegetable. They were an inventive, tasty nod to resourcefulness, fun, and a quietly wholesome approach to snacking. Ginger cookies. In the 1970s Canada, ginger cookies were a beloved staple that brought warmth, spice, and a touch of nostalgia to kitchen counters and lunchboxes alike. Their crisp exterior and tender interior offered a satisfying balance of textures, while the ginger spice carried subtle hints of molasses, cinnamon, and clove, creating a flavor profile that was comforting, fragrant, and slightly sophisticated. Beyond their deliciousness, ginger cookies contain trace minerals from molasses, such as iron and calcium, and the ginger itself offered digestive benefits. A small but meaningful nod to nutrition in an era when convenience often trumped wholesomeness. They were a snack that felt both indulgent and sensible, perfect for after-school treats or tea-time indulgences. The origins of ginger cookies trace back to European baking traditions, but by the 1970s, they had been fully embraced in Canadian households. Families relied on simple, accessible ingredients: flour, butter, sugar, molasses, and ground ginger to create a snack that was easy to make, yet carried a rich, aromatic depth. Many households enjoyed baking these cookies at home, a process that was as much about ritual as it was about flavor. Mixing, rolling, and cutting the dough into rounds or crinkled shapes allowed children to participate, creating both a sensory and social experience. Even store-bought versions captured the essence of homemade comfort, offering a convenient option that still felt authentic. Preparation at home involved combining softened butter with sugar and molasses, then mixing in flour, ground ginger, and a pinch of spices. The dough was rolled, cut, or shaped, and baked until the edges were golden and slightly crisp. The aroma that filled the kitchen was part of the enchantment, warm, spicy, and inviting, signaling that something special was ready to be shared. Families often savored the first cookie straight from the oven, enjoying the gentle warmth and satisfying bite, while the rest were stored in tins, releasing their aroma over days or even weeks. Nostalgia for ginger cookies is deeply tied to memory. They evoke cozy kitchens on chilly winter evenings, lunchboxes packed with care, and the quiet joy of a snack that felt timeless. There's humor in recalling the inevitable crumbs, the flour-dusted countertops, and the family debates over who got the last cookie. More than a treat, ginger cookies represented a connection to home, to tradition, and to the simple pleasures of everyday life. Viewed through a modern lens, ginger cookies remain timeless. Compared to today's hyper-processed sweets, they feel grounded, wholesome, and aromatic. Each bite delivers warmth, flavor, and a subtle reminder of home-cooked ingenuity. They embody an era when simplicity, taste, and shared moments mattered just as much as convenience, offering a crunchy, spicy bridge between past and present. Eating one now is more than indulging in a cookie. It's tasting a piece of 1970s Canadian culinary comfort. Pickle-flavored potato snacks. In the 1970s, Canada, pickle-flavored potato snacks were a bold, tangy twist on the humble chip that turned ordinary snacking into a quirky adventure. Their crisp, golden texture delivered the satisfying crunch of a traditional potato chip, while the vinegar-forward seasoning offered a sharp, slightly salty bite that made them unforgettable. At first glance, they seemed like pure indulgence, but there was a clever nutritional angle hidden beneath the flavor. The potato base provided some fiber and potassium, while the light pickling seasonings contributed minimal sodium and a hint of acidity that balanced the richness of other snacks. For parents and kids alike, these chips were a playful, portable snack that combined novelty with a small measure of sustenance. The origin of pickle-flavored potato snacks reflects the 1970s appetite for experimentation and novelty in convenience foods. Canadians were intrigued by bold flavors, and snack companies seized the opportunity to reinterpret the classic potato chip in ways that surprised and delighted. Drawing inspiration from pickled cucumbers, a traditional pantry staple, the seasoning was crafted to replicate that briny tang without the moisture, making it ideal for packaged snacks. These chips were shelf-stable, portable, and instantly recognizable for their unusual but addictive flavor, turning a simple bag of chips into a conversation starter for lunchboxes, road trips, and after-school snacking. Preparation was entirely pre-packaged. Simply open the bag and enjoy. but the ritual of eating them added to the charm. Kids would reach in for a handful, savoring the sharp tang that contrasted with the familiar crunch, while adults often used them as a playful accompaniment to sandwiches or cheese. There was a tactile satisfaction in the crisp break and a sensory thrill in the bold flavor that made each bite memorable. Families sometimes experimented, sprinkling a few crumbs over salads or mixing them with other snacks to create a custom blend, turning packaged convenience into a small culinary adventure. Nostalgia for pickle-flavored potato snacks runs deep. Many Canadians remember the surprise of tasting the briny flavor for the first time. The bright green-tinged dust clinging to fingers, and the laughter that came from debating whether they were too tangy or just perfect. There's warmth in recalling the shared enjoyment of a bag at a picnic, a school lunch, or during a quiet evening in front of the TV. They were snacks that sparked curiosity, conversation, and a sense of culinary daring. Viewed today, pickle-flavored potato snacks feel surprisingly modern. Their bold taste, inventive concept, and portable design anticipate today's trend for adventurous, niche snacks. Each bite delivers crunch, tang, and nostalgia. A reminder that 1970s Canadian snacking culture wasn't just about indulgence, but also about creativity, experimentation, and a little playful fun in every bag. Frozen yogurt cups. In the 1970s, Canada, frozen yogurt cups were an early bridge between indulgence and nutrition, a sweet treat that felt both playful and slightly virtuous. Unlike ice cream, these single-serving cups offered a tangy, creamy texture that satisfied the craving for dessert while delivering the benefits of real yogurt, protein, calcium, and a dose of probiotics that were beginning to gain recognition for gut health. For parents, they were a practical way to provide a cold, fun snack that felt wholesome, while children enjoyed the creamy sweetness, often topped with fruit or sprinkles, without realizing they were eating something with nutritional value. The origins of frozen yogurt cups tie closely to the rise of health-conscious convenience foods. The 1970s were a time when Canadians were becoming more aware of nutrition, yet still wanted their desserts and snacks to be enjoyable. Dairy producers responded by creating a portable, portion-controlled version of yogurt that could be stored in the freezer and enjoyed at any time. The cups were often lightly sweetened, available in fruit flavors like strawberry or raspberry, and packaged in sturdy single servings that made them ideal for lunchboxes, after-school snacks, or casual treats during hot summer days. Preparation was minimal. Just peel back the foil lid and scoop or bite straight in. But the ritual of eating frozen yogurt added to the enjoyment. Children delighted in the creamy texture, the tangy sweet flavor, and the occasional swirl of fruit or chocolate. Families sometimes added their own toppings at home, from fresh berries to crushed cookies, creating a miniature dessert experience without complicated steps. The act of sharing a cup during a picnic, after school, or at a family gathering added warmth and connection to what might otherwise have been a simple frozen treat. Nostalgia for frozen yogurt cups is tied to both flavor and experience. Many Canadians remember the satisfaction of the cold, creamy snack on a hot day, the foil lids peeled back with eager anticipation, and the small indulgence that didn't feel overly guilty. There's humor in recalling the little drips, the frozen tongue on first bites, and the quiet joy of a treat that balanced fun and nutrition. Viewed today, frozen yogurt cups feel remarkably modern, foreshadowing the boom of health-conscious frozen desserts and single-serving convenience foods. Each bite offers creamy sweetness, a tangy zing, and a reminder of 1970s. Canadian ingenuity in snack design. They were more than a frozen treat. They were a small victory in balancing taste, practicality, and a touch of wellness. A snack that remains as charming and relevant now as it was 50 years ago. Apple chips. In the 1970s Canada, apple chips were a clever reinvention of a classic fruit, transforming a humble apple into a crisp, portable snack. Unlike fresh fruit, which could bruise or spoil in a lunchbox, apple chips were dehydrated or lightly baked, concentrating the natural sweetness while preserving the subtle tartness that made apples so appealing. They were easy to pack, mess-free, and shelf-stable, making them an ideal snack for school lunches, picnics, or after-school cravings. Beyond convenience, apple chips carried a nutritional bonus: fiber, vitamin C, and the wholesome goodness of real fruit, giving parents peace of mind while kids enjoyed a crunchy, sweet treat. The origins of apple chips tie closely to both frugality and ingenuity. Families often baked or dried apples at home to preserve the harvest, especially in regions where winter storage required creativity. Commercially produced apple chips in the 1970s capitalized on this tradition, offering a convenient, consistent version that retained the flavor and texture of homemade versions. They reflected a growing awareness of nutrition, portability, and the desire for snacks that were both fun and subtly beneficial. The simplicity of ingredients, just apples, sometimes a dusting of cinnamon or sugar, highlighted the era's ability to make the most of basic, natural foods. Preparation at home was simple yet satisfying. Sliced apples were laid out on baking sheets or in dehydrators, sometimes sprinkled with cinnamon, and baked slowly until crisp. Children often helped with the slicing and arranging, turning the process into a small kitchen project that combined creativity with practicality. The transformation of juicy fruit into delicate, crunchy chips was a small culinary magic, reinforcing both patience and appreciation for natural flavors. Nostalgia for apple chips is rooted in their sensory charm. Many Canadians remember the satisfying snap with each bite, the sweet tart aroma wafting from the bag or kitchen, and the delight of a snack that felt indulgent without being overly sugary. They were a bridge between homemade tradition and convenient packaging, offering both flavor and practicality in one simple snack. Viewed today, apple chips feel remarkably contemporary. With modern trends favoring baked or dehydrated fruit snacks, clean label ingredients, and convenient portable packaging, the 1970s version was ahead of its time. Each bite delivers crisp texture, natural sweetness, and a subtle connection to a simpler era of snacking. Apple chips remain a testament to resourcefulness, flavor, and the enduring appeal of transforming everyday ingredients into something playful, practical, and nostalgically satisfying. Homemade graham cracker treats. In the 1970s Canada, homemade graham cracker treats were a nostalgic staple that combined simplicity, sweetness, and a hands-on approach to snacking. Often made by layering graham crackers with melted chocolate, marshmallows, or peanut butter, these treats were portable, quick to assemble, and endlessly customizable. While undeniably indulgent, they also carried subtle nutritional elements. Graham crackers provided whole grain carbohydrates, peanut butter contributed protein and healthy fats, and modest amounts of chocolate or marshmallow added just the right touch of sugar. For parents, these treats were an easy way to provide a snack that felt homemade and satisfying, while kids reveled in the fun of creating and eating their own little desserts. The origin of graham cracker treats reflects both convenience and creativity. Graham crackers had long been a pantry staple, valued for their mild sweetness and versatility. In the 1970s, Canadian families embraced snacks that could be made at home with minimal ingredients and effort, especially during busy afternoons or as a quick after-school reward. The treats were practical, allowing children to participate in assembly, and they mirrored the growing fascination with do-it-yourself snacks and portable, ready-to-eat foods. Simple additions like marshmallow fluff, melted chocolate, or fruit preserves allowed each household to put its own spin on a classic formula. Preparation was straightforward yet enjoyable. Layers of graham crackers were spread with fillings, stacked or pressed together, and sometimes drizzled with chocolate or dusted with powdered sugar. Children often joined in, spreading, stacking, and occasionally sampling as they went along. The tactile experience of building the treat, combined with the sweet aroma of melted chocolate or marshmallows, made the process as memorable as the snack itself. Homemade graham cracker treats were as much about creativity, anticipation, and family involvement as they were about taste. Nostalgia for these treats runs deep. Canadians recall the excitement of unwrapping a homemade snack, the soft crackle of chocolate or marshmallow, and the playful mess of sticky fingers. There's humor in remembering attempts to make perfect layers, the inevitable crumb-filled countertops, and the delighted faces of children sneaking extra pieces before dessert. They were a small indulgence that brought families together, combining practicality, fun, and comfort in every bite. Viewed today, homemade graham cracker treats feel timeless. They embody the principles of creativity, simplicity, and portable indulgence that continue to influence modern snack culture. Each bite delivers a crunchy sweet texture, a touch of nostalgia, and a reminder that the best snacks often come from the kitchen rather than the store. They are a testament to 1970s Canadian ingenuity in balancing flavor, fun, and familial connection. A treat that remains as charming and satisfying now as it was then. And there you have it, 21 Canadian junk foods from the 1970s that were surprisingly good for you. From tangy pickle chips to cozy ginger cookies, these snacks weren't just tasty, they had a little hidden nutrition too. Which one brought back your sweetest memories? Share your favorites in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this nostalgic trip through Canadian snack history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Here's to delicious memories and a crunchy taste of the past.